Picture this. It's 1452 in a small Italian village. A baby is born who shouldn't exist. His father is a respectable notary. His mother is a peasant. The child is illegitimate, which means he's banned from universities, locked out of guilds, forbidden from most professions. By every rule of his society, this boy is destined for nothing. 67 years later, that same boy dies in the arms of the King of France, mourned as the greatest genius who ever lived. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just overcome his circumstances, he transformed them into superpowers. And here's the part nobody talks about. The methods he used aren't mysterious or magical. They're learnable, they're repeatable, and they're hiding in plain sight in the story of his life. What you're about to discover isn't another biography of Leonardo. This is the decoded manual of how an outcast became unstoppable. 7 principles extracted from his journey that you can apply to your life starting today. Because Leonardo's greatest creation wasn't the Mona Lisa or his flying machines. It was the method of thinking that made everything else possible. Chapter 1. The Gift of Being Nobody. Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci enters the world already rejected. In 15th century Italy, being born out of wedlock isn't just shameful. It's a life sentence. He can't inherit his father's name or property. He's barred from the notary guild that gave his father status. Universities won't accept him. The professions are closed. Even the church, that supposed sanctuary of forgiveness, treats bastards as permanently stained. Most people in Leonardo's position accepted their fate. They became laborers, soldiers, servants. But Leonardo's grandfather, Antonio, saw something different. While the boy's father started a legitimate family and ignored his bastard son, Antonio took young Leonardo into the countryside. And there, something extraordinary happened. Without formal teachers telling him what to think, Leonardo learned from the only teacher that couldn't reject him, nature itself. He spent hours watching water flow in streams, seeing how it created spirals and vortexes. He studied birds not through books, but through observation, noticing how their wings curved and flexed. He drew what he saw, not what he was supposed to see. This is Principle 1. Your disadvantages are your secret curriculum. Every door that closed on Leonardo forced him to find another way. Banned from Latin schools, he learned in the vernacular, making his notes accessible to common people. Excluded from guilds, he apprenticed with Andrea del Verrocchio, who ran a workshop outside the guild system. Forbidden from university, he became his own university. Think about your own life right now. What doors feel closed to you? What systems have rejected you? What qualifications do you lack? Leonardo would tell you these aren't obstacles. They're invitations to find a better way. The guild painters of his time followed strict rules about perspective and color. Leonardo, free from their constraints, invented new techniques that revolutionized art. They painted what tradition demanded. He painted what he actually saw. Modern parallel. Steve Jobs was adopted, dropped out of college, and was fired from the company he founded. Like Leonardo, every rejection taught him to think differently. The famous Think Different campaign wasn't just marketing, it was autobiography. When you can't follow the normal path, you're forced to create your own. And created paths lead to places the highways never reach. But Leonardo took this further. He turned being nobody into a superpower. When you're nobody, you can associate with anybody. Leonardo moved freely between social classes, learning from prostitutes and princes, criminals and cardinals. He gathered knowledge from sources the elite considered beneath them and the poor considered above them. His position outside the hierarchy became his position to see the whole hierarchy. Start paying attention to your disadvantages differently. That thing you think is holding you back? That's your Leonardo moment waiting to happen. Can't afford formal education? You're free to learn without institutional bias. Don't have connections? You're free to build unexpected alliances, not from the right background. You're free from background expectations. Chapter 2. The Notebook Revolution. At 14, Leonardo starts something that seems trivial, but becomes revolutionary. He begins carrying small notebooks everywhere. Not for scheduled lessons or assigned work, for everything. A face in the market, the way light hits water, a bird's wing motion, questions without answers, ideas without purpose. By his death, Leonardo had filled over 13,000 pages with observations. But here's what made them different. He didn't organize them. A page might contain a study of human anatomy, next to a recipe for paint, next to observations about moon shadows, next to a design for a siege weapon. His mind refused categories, because categories create boundaries, and boundaries prevent connections. This is principle 2. Observation without judgment is the gateway to genius. Leonardo didn't decide what was worth noting. He noted everything. He drew the grotesque as carefully as the beautiful. He studied failures as intently as successes. He recorded questions more than answers. Try this experiment for 1 week. Carry a notebook everywhere. Not a phone, an actual notebook. Write down 10 things you notice each day. Not important things, not meaningful things, just things. The way someone holds their coffee cup, the pattern of cracks in concrete, the sound of different kinds of laughter. Don't judge, don't analyze, just observe and record. What happens is profound. Your brain starts waking up to details it's been sleeping through. You realize you've been living in a kind of automated trance, seeing only what you need to see for immediate survival or success. But Leonardo understood something crucial. Genius isn't about thinking better thoughts. It's about seeing more reality. One page of Leonardo's notebooks shows his observation of water falling into a pool. He didn't just see splash. He saw that water creates specific patterns, that these patterns repeat at different scales, that the same mathematics governing water governed hair curls and cloud formations. This observation would later influence his understanding of fluid dynamics, his paintings of hair and fabric, and his designs for hydraulic engineering. Another page records his watching of people at a market. Not famous people, not beautiful people, just people. He noted how anger changed facial muscles, how age affected posture, how emotion showed in hands, not just faces. These observations would make his paintings revolutionary. While other artists painted idealized humans, Leonardo painted psychological reality. The notebook method does something else crucial. It separates observation from outcome. When you're always focused on goals, you only see what serves those goals. But Leonardo's notebooks had no immediate purpose. He was building a database of reality that he could later connect in ways he couldn't predict. The study of horse legs would influence his design of mechanical gears. His observation of tree branches would shape his understanding of blood vessels. Chapter 3. The Art of Learning Wrong. Between 1483 and 1505, Leonardo designed over 500 flying machines. Not one of them worked. Let that sink in. The greatest genius in history failed at human flight 500 times. But here's the twist. He kept designing them. Not because he was stubborn, but because he understood something about failure that we've forgotten. Look at his flying machine sketches chronologically, and you see something remarkable. Each failure teaches him something specific. The ornithopter that crashed taught him about weight ratios. The glider that wouldn't glide revealed principles of air resistance. The helicopter that wouldn't lift exposed the relationship between rotation speed and lift force. He wasn't failing. He was conducting experiments. This is principle 3. Failure is data, not defeat. Every design that didn't work eliminated one possibility and revealed new questions. But more importantly, the failed flying machines taught Leonardo principles he applied everywhere else. The wing mechanics showed up in his theatrical designs. The weight distribution influenced his architecture. The mechanical joints appeared in his engineering projects. Here's how to apply this. Start a failure journal, not a success journal. Everyone does that. A failure journal. Every time something doesn't work, write down exactly how it failed. Not why you think it failed, but the specific observable way it broke down. Then write what question this failure raises. Failed job interview. Don't write, I wasn't good enough. Write, stopped maintaining eye contact when discussing salary. That's data. Failed relationship? Don't write, we weren't compatible. Write, conversations died when discussing future plans. That's data. Failed project? Don't write bad timing. Write, lost momentum after the 3rd week. That's data. Leonardo's most famous failure might be his horse sculpture for the Duke of Milan. He spent 17 years on it. The sculpture was never completed. The bronze was used for cannons instead. Most would see this as wasted time. But during those 17 years, Leonardo learned bronze casting techniques, studied horse anatomy in unprecedented detail, and developed engineering methods for handling massive weights. The failed horse project gave him expertise he used in dozens of other works. He even failed successfully at failure. Leonardo tried to create a universal system for categorizing all knowledge. He failed. But in trying to create categories, he discovered that everything connects to everything else. His failure to separate knowledge revealed that knowledge is inherently connected. The failure became the insight. Modern culture teaches us to hide failures, to pretend they didn't happen, to fail fast and move on. Leonardo did the opposite. He studied his failures longer than his successes. He drew his mistakes in detail. He kept broken models to remember what didn't work. He understood that success teaches you what's possible, but failure teaches you what's real. Chapter 4. The Mirror Mind. Everyone knows. Leonardo wrote backwards, from right to left, in mirror script. Most assume he was just secretive or naturally left-handed. But look deeper. Leonardo wasn't hiding information. His notebooks were never truly secret. He was doing something far more profound. He was forcing his brain to break patterns. When you write backwards, you can't rely on muscle memory. Every letter requires conscious attention. Every word demands presence. You literally cannot go on autopilot. Leonardo turned the simple act of writing into a meditation on awareness. But the mirror writing was just the beginning of a larger practice. This is Principle 4. Reverse everything to see anything. Leonardo didn't just write backwards, he thought backwards. While everyone else started with conclusions and looked for evidence, Leonardo started with evidence and avoided conclusions. While others painted foreground then background, he painted background then foreground. While others studied death to understand anatomy, he studied anatomy to understand life. Here's a practical exercise. Take any belief you hold strongly. Now argue the opposite position for 10 minutes, not as a devil's advocate game, but genuinely try to see from that perspective. If you believe technology is making us smarter, argue that it's making us dumber. If you believe hard work guarantees success, argue that it's mostly luck. Don't do this to change your mind. Do it to expand your mind. Leonardo applied this reversal to everything. Other artists started with outlines, then added detail. Leonardo started with shadows, then found forms. Others saw engineering as making things work. Leonardo often started by imagining how things could break. This reversal thinking led to innovations others couldn't conceive. His study of anatomy shows this perfectly. Doctors of his time started with what they believed bodies should contain: the four humors, the soul's location, divine proportions. Leonardo started with what he actually found when cutting open corpses. No assumptions, just observation. When he found structures that contradicted accepted knowledge, he drew what he saw, not what doctrine demanded. The mirror mind extends beyond technique to perspective itself. Leonardo would draw objects from multiple angles, simultaneously, not different drawings of the same thing, but the same drawing showing multiple viewpoints. His sketches of machines show top, side, and interior views, overlapping in ways that shouldn't make sense, but reveal total understanding. This reverse thinking made Leonardo dangerous to established power. When everyone knew the sun revolved around Earth, Leonardo's notebooks contained sketches suggesting otherwise. When everyone knew heavier objects fell faster, Leonardo's experiments suggested otherwise. He didn't publish these findings, but he knew them. The mirror mind had shown him reality's reflection. Chapter 5. The Connection Secret. In 1490, Leonardo drew a seemingly simple sketch, the Vitruvian Man. But hidden in this famous image is Leonardo's greatest discovery. Everything connects to everything else. The human body's proportions match architectural proportions, which match musical harmonies, which match planetary orbits. He wasn't drawing a man. He was drawing the universe's operating system. Watch Leonardo's mind make connections. He studies water flowing around a rock and sees how armies should flow around fortifications. He examines a bird's wing and understands how to design a bridge. He dissects an eye and revolutionizes how to paint light. Nothing exists in isolation in Leonardo's world. Every observation is a window to universal principles. This is Principle 5. Mastery comes from seeing patterns across domains. While specialists dug deeper into single fields, Leonardo went wider, finding bridges between fields. His greatest innovations came not from expertise in one area, but from applying patterns from one area to another. Here's how to develop this connection ability. Choose 3 completely unrelated things you encounter today: a conversation with a colleague, a tree you pass, a problem you're trying to solve. Now find 10 connections between them. Not logical connections, pattern connections. How does the tree's branching pattern relate to the conversation's flow? How does the conversation's rhythm match the problem's structure? This seems like a game, but it's serious brain training. You're literally building new neural pathways, teaching your mind to see relationships that logical thinking misses. Leonardo did this constantly, automatically, obsessively. His notebooks are full of seemingly random analogies that reveal deep insights. He noticed that tree branches follow the same mathematical ratios as river tributaries. This observation influenced his hydraulic engineering projects. He saw that the spiral of shells matched the spiral of hair curls, matched the spiral of water draining. This pattern recognition influenced everything from his painting techniques to his architectural designs. The connection secret goes deeper. Leonardo understood that boundaries between subjects were human inventions, not natural laws. Art wasn't separate from science. Engineering wasn't separate from anatomy. Music wasn't separate from mathematics. He studied everything because he understood it was all the same thing viewed from different angles. Chapter 6. The Unfinished Masterpiece. Here's a shocking statistic. Leonardo completed less than 30% of his commissioned works. The Adoration of the Magi, unfinished. Saint Jerome in the Wilderness, unfinished. The Battle of Anghiari, unfinished. Even the Mona Lisa, worked on for 16 years, was never considered complete by Leonardo. He was still adding touches when he died. Most see this as Leonardo's weakness, his inability to focus, his perfectionism paralysis. But reverse the perspective. What if incompletion was his strength? What if the unfinished toad was the point? This is Principle 6. Creation is a process, not a product. Leonardo understood something we've forgotten in our deadline-driven world. The moment you declare something finished, it stops teaching you. It becomes frozen, dead, historical. But as long as it remains in process, it stays alive, continues evolving, keeps revealing new possibilities. Look at the Mona Lisa's creation timeline. Leonardo didn't spend 16 years painting. He spent 16 years learning through painting. Each session with the painting taught him something new. About light, about expression, about the relationship between internal state and external appearance. The painting wasn't the goal. The painting was the teacher. This principle transforms how you approach your own work. Instead of racing toward completion, what if you embraced eternal iteration? Start projects with no intention of finishing them. Not because you're uncommitted, but because you understand that the project's value isn't in its completion, but in how it changes you. Leonardo's unfinished works reveal his process in ways completed works never could. We can see his thinking, his corrections, his evolution. The unfinished Adoration of the Magi shows his underdrawing, revealing how he constructed space and movement. These incomplete works are masterclasses in creation itself. But there's something deeper. Here, Leonardo understood that reality itself is unfinished. Nature doesn't create final products. It creates processes. A tree isn't a completed object. It's a process of growth, decay, and regeneration. A river isn't a thing. It's a pattern of flow. By leaving works unfinished, Leonardo was aligning with nature's way. Apply this to your life immediately. Choose one project you've been trying to complete. Instead of finishing it, decide to keep it permanently open. Make it your laboratory. Return to it regularly, not to complete it, but to learn from it. Watch how this shift changes everything. The pressure disappears. The creativity returns. The project becomes a companion instead of an obligation. Chapter 7. The Final Mystery. In his final years, Leonardo wrote something that explains everything. Learning never exhausts the mind, only illuminates it. After decades of study, thousands of pages of notes, hundreds of innovations, Leonardo's conclusion was that he had just begun. The more he learned, the more he realized there was to learn. And instead of frustrating him, this delighted him. On his deathbed in 1519, Leonardo reportedly said, "I have offended God and mankind because my work did not reach the quality it should have." But this wasn't a defeat. This was recognition that the journey has no end, that perfection isn't a destination, but a direction, that the point of life isn't to arrive, but to travel. This is Principle 7. The journey is the destination. Every answer reveals new questions. Every peak reveals new mountains. Every mastery reveals new mysteries. Leonardo didn't become the greatest genius because he found all the answers. He became the greatest genius because he never stopped asking questions. Think about your own journey right now. Where are you trying to arrive? What finish line are you racing toward? What if Leonardo's message is that the race itself is the prize? What if the struggle isn't something to overcome, but something to embrace? Leonardo's final notebook, the one he was working on when he died, doesn't contain conclusions. It contains questions. Questions about light, questions about water, questions about the human soul. After a lifetime of investigation, he was still investigating. After decades of discovery, he was still discovering. This is why Leonardo matters now, more than ever. In a world that promises quick fixes and final answers, Leonardo reminds us that real mastery comes from eternal studentship. In a culture obsessed with outcomes, Leonardo shows us that process is everything. In a time that fears failure, Leonardo proves that failure is just discovery in disguise. The 7 principles aren't steps to follow. They're ways of being. Turn your disadvantages into advantages. Observe without judgment. Embrace failure as data. Think backwards to see forwards. Connect everything to everything. Keep creating without completing. Never stop journeying. You don't need to be a genius to use Leonardo's method. Leonardo wasn't born a genius. He became one by refusing to accept the limitations others accepted, by seeing what others overlooked, by connecting what others separated, by continuing when others stopped. Your notebook is waiting. Your observations are calling. Your failures are teaching. Your connections are forming. Your masterpiece is evolving. Your journey is beginning. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now. Because Leonardo's greatest lesson isn't in what he achieved. It's in how he lived. Completely curious, eternally questioning, forever becoming. The bastard boy who shouldn't have amounted to anything became everything because he understood a secret. You don't need permission to be extraordinary. You don't need credentials to create. You don't need approval to innovate. You just need to start observing, start connecting, start creating, and never stop. What will you observe today that everyone else ignores? What will you connect that everyone else separates? What will you create that you'll never complete? What journey will you begin that has no end? Leonardo is watching, not from the past, but from the future you're about to create. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing. Willing to see differently. Willing to fail repeatedly. Willing to stay unfinished. Willing to be extraordinary. The Renaissance didn't end with Leonardo. It paused, waiting for you to continue it. Your move, genius.